Let's talk about text modules, macros, ticket checklists and ticket templates in Zammad. This is part 2 of my basic configuration series, so grab a cup of your favorite drink and lean back. Text modules are the ideal way to standardize answers to customers, especially if they are razor long. They can contain any formatting that's available in Zammad and images. Text modules are an agent functionality and thus only available to them during answering and creating tickets. You can import these via CSV if needed at any time. Zammad will automatically load a default set of text modules if you are setting up Zammad with English or DACH region languages. Zammad will take your preferred browser language into account for this. Should your Zammad not contain any text modules, but you'd prefer to start with English examples, you can execute Zammad run rails r text module load en. If you're not using a package installation, execute the command without Zammad run. The mentioned command will only work if your system has no text modules yet. Let's take a quick look on the available options of text modules. You can find a text module in two ways, by the name and by several keywords. Many module names may not be self-explaining, as everyone has their own expectations. Using a combination of name and keywords definitely makes your life easier, if you're looking for something without knowing how exactly it's called. In the content field you can add the text you actually want to add to the ticket article when inserting the text module. Notes are only available to administrators and thus may not be relevant. If you do not select any groups, the text module will be available in all groups of the system. If you select one or more groups, the text module will only be available to those. Note that they will also be available to the agent if they are temporarily changed to group without updating the ticket. Instead of removing a text module, you can always set it to inactive. For example, if you have seasonal messages that aren't always relevant, but still will be needed later on. A very basic usage of text modules can be seen if you take a look at the default text modules in Zammad. They basically contain greetings and farewell phrases. But complex stuff like the step-by-step guide I created earlier is no problem at all. Agents can insert text modules by typing two colons, followed by the keyword they are looking for. The arrow keys can be used to navigate through the results, and enter loads the text module into the article. You can also use any variable in Zammad with a text module, as long as it's available in the current situation you're using the text module in. You can check the documentation for available default variables in Zammad or type : in the content section of a text module you're working on. It's basically like working with text modules but with variables. Now let's take a look on an example. Let's suppose you regularly have to meet with customers via Jitsi Meet, where you basically use a slug term and the ticket number to have individual rooms with your customers. Then you could create a text module with the text you desire, along with a prepared URL that contains the ticket number variable that Zammad will replace as soon as the text module is being applied. On a side note, of course you could also use a custom ticket attribute for this, where you paste your favorite communication platform like Microsoft Teams into and then call that URL in the text module. I hope this gives you an idea on text modules, apart the default greeting formulas. Ticket templates are available during the ticket creation dialogues only. It's available to agents only. With templates, you can easily have a default way to create recurring tickets, for example for incident messages to your customer. As Zammad currently doesn't support recurring tickets, this might be the closest you can get on that regard. Unlike text modules, ticket templates do not just hold text for an article. It allows you to pre-fill any ticket field you require. Of course, this also includes the ticket type, so you can conventionally prepare an outgoing email with a simple click. There's one downside to templates though. Variables are not available. This means that you have to decide between a text module or ticket template in some scenarios. If you generally need to use the text you're going to write both during the ticket creation and an update, text modules are the better partner. If what you need to write benefits from preset field values and is only required during the ticket creation, ticket templates are the perfect fit. The configuration of a template is very straightforward. Just keep in mind that it's not dynamic at all and comes with static settings. An exception are pending states like pending reminder, which allows you to add a relative time event to the mix. Users with admin.template or general admin permission can manage these templates. Deletion, cloning, editing, or the creation of new templates is quickly done. Older versions work differently on an agent basis which didn't have enough control over templates. During the ticket creation, you have the right ticket sidebar that contains templates, if you have defined any. Select a template from the list and hit apply, and Zammad will apply the template to the current dialog. After you applied the template, you can adjust the content as needed or add stuff that is not supported by templates. One important remark on so-called dirty fields in Zammad. A dirty field is basically an attribute which value differs in between memory and the database. In context with templates, this means that Zammad is able to detect that a field already has a value upon applying the template. Affected fields will not be overwritten. That's a good thing, but might be a trap if you populate a field by accident. Another side note on pre-filled fields. Let's say you already put the customer into the field because the template is not the correct place for it and then apply the template. If you then try to apply a text module that contains variables that affect the ticket customer, you will receive no values. The values are not rechecked cleanly, which leads to this issue. Make sure to apply the template and then the ticket customer. This only has a negative impact if you need to use variables or further text modules on top. If you are just submitting the ticket after applying the template, the order doesn't matter at all. With ticket checklists, you can define checklists for existing tickets. You can do so by either applying an existing checklist template or by creating a checklist manually. These checklists can be adjusted dynamically without changing the template itself. Cross-referencing tickets in these lists is also possible to track, for example, child tickets and sub-processes in a workflow. It needs to be said, as of now, Zammad does not allow you to add a checklist during the ticket creation. Also, these checklists behave similar to ticket tags, which means that adding entries or finishing them does not cause any ticket update and thus does not execute triggers. Apart from that, they are great for keeping track of important things that you would have to put into either a ticket article manually or use an external task tool to do so. This method integrates much better into your ticket workflow and hopefully also helps you. In the checklist of a ticket, you can rearrange individual entries as needed. Apart from checking them as done, you can also edit or remove entries as needed. Of course, adding new entries is possible at any time too. This behavior is available to all agents with at least write permission on these tickets. Agents with read permissions will see a read-only checklist. Customers cannot use or see the checklist content at all. In the checklist management, you can choose to disable ticket checklist completely. This has an impact on every ticket. Disabling checklists for single roles, users or groups is not possible at this moment. In case you wonder, disabling and reactivating the checklist functionality does not remove the checklist data. So if you do that by accident, nothing will be lost. In this area, you can manage existing checklist templates or create new ones. Changing existing templates that have been applied to the ticket already will not update the checklist in affected tickets. If you don't want to delete a template, you can also set it to inactive at any time. Agents will no longer be able to see the template and thus cannot apply it to a ticket. During the template creation, you can add, remove and rearrange all entries as you need them. Keep in mind to use the Add button for entries, as otherwise it won't be part of the template. You can remove checklists from tickets at any time. This cannot be undone. If a name of a checklist either from a template or created manually does not fit, you can rename it at any time. Macros are a great option to reduce needed mouse clicks and to standardize specific workflows. They can be limited to specific groups and thus will only be available after the relevant group has been selected. You can't use macros during the creation of a ticket. In these situations, it's most likely better to consider ticket templates instead. It's worth to mention that a macro will always override existing ticket attributes. This is not just the case for an email you might have prepared without sending it, but also attributes which you have changed. Also note that variables are not available for macros. In the macro management, you can adjust all macros or add new ones. You can also clone or remove existing ones. A macro can adjust any ticket attribute and add a node to a ticket. Speaking of attributes, if your macro tries to set attributes out of scope, they might not vary at all or only partly. For this reason, you can limit macros to groups. This also helps to keep the list of macros lower and group specific for your agents. One last useful setting is once completed. This option allows you to define if the agent should stay on the current taskbar tab, if the next ticket in the overview should be opened, if the tab should be closed, or if the tab should only be closed upon a ticket close. You can also use variables in these nodes. However, note that there's a bug that basically only allows you to do this via bulk operations from overviews. Zammad maintainers decided against fixing this in the legacy web app, so you will have to wait for the stable desktop view to be ready. With this and an overview, you can even execute bulk operations from an overview directly. To run bulk operations, simply select the ticket in question, hold down your left mouse key and drag the mouse slightly. In the new overlay you can now move your mouse up. You will be presented with all available macros. If you are in a ticket zoom, use the arrow up to the right of the update button. Be careful though, any change that is not part of the macro will also be applied with the execution of the macro. You see, hitting the update button thus is not needed after executing a macro. Let's take a look at some use cases. The default macro already gives you an idea. It marks tickets in a specific way, so that for example a scheduler can filter out these tickets and then remove them. The best example for such a macro is the close and tag as spam macro. This macro itself, however, is just a puzzle piece in the process it outlines. If you want to, for example, remove spam tickets after a certain period of time, you'd be looking for a scheduler task. We will handle schedulers in a later video. Let's say you're working with a lot of mentions in tickets. The problem with that is that the overview for subscribed tickets might get very crowded after some time. To overcome this, you create a macro which basically just unsubscribes the current user from any given ticket. With that, you can bulk unsubscribe from within overviews easily. If you're using pending states a lot, no matter if pending reminder or pending close, a macro might be useful here as well. Setting the state to pending reminder and pending till to relative 5 days within actions will allow you to have a reminder after 5 days at the same time you're executing this macro. Additionally, you can make use of once completed by setting it to close tab. This allows a macro to close the ticket upon execution without changing the default tab behavior of the agent. Out of sight, out of mind. You see, macros can be a great way to boost certain workflows. Hopefully this video gave you a good impression on today's features. Let me know what you think in the comments and stay tuned for more input on Zammad functions. Until next time, take care.